The harshest reality of Jack Reacher's character couldn't be more obvious after Season 3, Episode 7. The more Reacher Season 3 progresses, the more it becomes hard not to notice one harsh reality about Alan Ritchson's Jack Reacher. As Reacher's seasons have advanced, Alan Ritchson has seemingly immersed himself in the character more deeply. While he has done an incredible job portraying the character in all 3 seasons, he seems to be a better fit for the role in Season 3 than in the earlier seasons. He not only perfectly embodies the character physically, but also manages to capture how Reacher says a lot without saying anything at all. There have been moments in all 3 Reacher seasons where the Alan Ritchson character has shown unbelievable feats of strength. However, the poise and confidence with which Alan Ritchson carries himself when he portrays Jack Reacher almost makes his nearly superhuman strength believable. With each new episode, Ritchson has also managed to portray one of the darker aspects of Reacher's personality, which has been more evident than ever in Season 3's last few episodes. For someone who likes rules, Reacher acts like he's above them. Since Reacher Season 1, the Alan Ritchson character has followed a fixed set of rules during his investigations. He keeps preaching about how one can never rely on assumptions, and even reminds all his enemies that he leaves them alone if they leave him and his friends alone. Even when it comes to his hobo lifestyle, he sticks to one concrete rule: his toothbrush has to be his only constant possession. His long rule book includes many other guidelines he strictly follows, proving that he loves organizing his life with a fixed set of principles. When Duffy and Villanueva call him out for mindlessly killing men and leaving it to them to clear his trail of blood, he remains unapologetic, justifying his actions by convincing himself that the men he kills deserve to die. However, despite being so drawn to the idea of following his own rules, Reacher seems to care little about the rules that others expect him to follow. When Duffy and Villanueva call him out for mindlessly killing men and leaving it to them to clear his trail of blood, he remains unapologetic, justifying his actions by convincing himself that the men he kills deserve to die. Even in Reacher Season 3's Episode 7, he refuses to comply with the 2 DEA agents and the ATF as he sets out to kill Xavier Quinn by himself with a sniper rifle. Reacher is more of an anti-hero than a traditional hero. When Duffy tries to assure Reacher that justice will be served to Quinn after the ATF catches him, the Alan Ritchson character almost seems to morph into a young Batman as he quotes, "I don't want justice, I want revenge." Given how Quinn is a ruthless murderer who tortured Dominique Cole to death, it is understandable where Reacher's hate and resentment for him come from. One can see why Reacher does not want to spare him and hand him over to law enforcement. However, this is not the first time Reacher has taken justice into his own hands without considering the moral implications of his actions. Almost throughout Reacher Season 2, the Alan Ritchson character and his former team members from the 110th Special Investigation Unit went on a ruthless killing spree against the bad guys. By now, fans of Reacher are well aware that Jack Reacher isn't your typical hero. He's not charming in the traditional sense, not the kind of man who wins people over with flowery speeches or smiling photo ops. He's blunt. He's cold. He operates with a strict internal code of justice that often feels more brutal than the crimes he's punishing. But Season 3, Episode 7 makes one thing painfully clear: Reacher is utterly, profoundly alone, and that's exactly the way he thinks it should be. It's a harsh reality that's been hinted at for 3 seasons now, but never quite so starkly laid bare. Reacher isn't just a man without a permanent address. He's a man without roots, without people, without a real sense of belonging. The episode doesn't just hint at this, it wraps the theme around every character interaction like a noose tightening slowly. And for viewers who've followed Reacher from the books to the screen, the emotional isolation has never hit harder. A ghost who walks among the living. In Episode 7, Reacher finds himself making progress in the case, but the personal cost is becoming more evident. As he confronts a particularly personal betrayal and the body count grows, the emotional toll becomes less avoidable, even for someone as emotionally locked down as him. Reacher operates like a ghost, drifting from town to town, solving problems, disappearing before the dust settles. His effectiveness comes from his ability to be uninfluenced by politics, personal bias, or emotional attachment. But that detachment also means he doesn't let anyone in. He doesn't stay. He doesn't try. He's allergic to the idea of home. that emotional distance was always framed as a strength. And in many ways, it is. Reacher's decisiveness and clarity of purpose are what make him a force of nature. But this episode reveals the other side of the coin. He has become so self-reliant that there is no room for intimacy, no safety net for his soul. When everyone else eventually goes home, Reacher walks away. Always. The cost of his code. Reacher has a code. It's not written down, but it's as rigid and unforgiving as stone. He protects the vulnerable. He punishes the guilty. He doesn't bend the rules because he is the rule when he's on the scene. And while this moral clarity is what makes him so compelling, it's also what isolates him. In episode 7, when a former ally challenges him, reminding him that there are gray areas in life, not just black and white, Reacher's response is pure ice. He doesn't flinch, doesn't second guess. But the camera lingers just long enough for us to see what he doesn't, the pain behind the other character's eyes. Reacher can't see that his justice sometimes comes at the expense of connection. He'll walk through fire for a stranger in trouble, but he won't stay to hold their hand when it's over. And that's the most brutal truth of all. Jack Reacher may save lives, but he's emotionally unavailable to the very people he protects. No room for redemption. Perhaps the most devastating moment of the episode is one of the quietest. After the dust settles on yet another violent confrontation, Reacher sits alone in a diner, nursing a coffee and staring into the distance. There's no music swelling, no voiceover explaining what he's thinking. Just silence. Just Reacher. Alone. It's a moment that says more about his character than any punch or gunfight ever could. He's not just passing through towns, he's passing through lives. He makes a difference, but never a connection. He doesn't want redemption. He doesn't even believe he needs it. He thinks the work is enough. But the show subtly challenges that belief. Other characters around him, especially those who want to help, increasingly reveal how difficult it is to care for someone who refuses to be cared for. Reacher isn't just hard to love, he makes it impossible. That self-sabotage isn't born of malice, but of habit. It's who he's become. And that's what hurts the most. The price of being a weapon. The idea of Reacher as a weapon, not just a man, is another theme the episode leans into. He's trained, tactical, always calculating. But weapons aren't meant to be loved. They're used and stored away. And perhaps that's the most tragic truth Reacher carries. He has allowed himself to be forged into a tool, not a person. When you become nothing but a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And Reacher's world is full of nails, bad guys, corruption, betrayal. But who fixes the hammer when it starts to crack? That moment hasn't come for Reacher yet, but episode 7 suggests it might be approaching. His solitary path is littered with consequences, not just for others, but for himself. Eventually, even the strongest wanderer needs a place to rest, a hand to reach out to, a name to be called in the dark. Reacher doesn't believe he needs that. But this episode leaves us wondering, what if he's wrong? In the end, Season 3, Episode 7 doesn't just continue Reacher's story, it exposes its core truth. He's a man who saves the